Okay, so I'm gonna walk you step by step regarding how to edit down this song that they want into a 2-minute clip as opposed to the entire song. So the first thing I need to do is open it up so you can follow along on the screen. So what I've done here, if I can transfer over, and now my DAW is already up because in order for this to work on Windows so you can see what I'm doing, I have to use what's called Xbox Game Bar. If I hit the Windows key and G, it kicks it up. And there can be a record button right there, and you can record your screen from that point. You can't do it straight from the desktop. You need to be able to do it while you have a program up so it can record the program. Alternatively, you can hit Windows, Alt, and R at the same time, and that will automatically start it. So now that we have that up, I can get out of there. When you open up Mixcraft, which I would do right from the desktop, it's Mixcraft 8.1 Pro Studio. That is my DAW of choice. I've used Mixcraft since they had version 5 or 6. Back when I was in college in 2005, I do all of my editing, all my voiceover work. I've always used this program. I cannot speak highly of it enough. I'm not sponsored by them. They don't even know I exist, but this is the interface that I like. So we don't really need any of these settings right here because we're doing something quite simple. If you want, you can change the instrument tracks, the audio tracks. Honestly, we really don't need more than like 3 for this just to keep the screen nice and neat. Now, tempo is what you're gonna use for the BPM of the song. I happen to know that this one is set at 48 beats per minute, which is quite slow, but we don't want 48. It's a ballad, so obviously it's going to be on the slower side, but you want to use multiples to get the subdivisions in there. So I happen to know this is 192, which I could tell by listening to it before. And if you don't know the BPM, you can either use one of those interface programs that can automatically detect it, or what I recommend doing is going online. I think all8.com is the website where you tap along on your keyboard to the beat of the song, and there's usually a more accurate representation of what the tempo is. Now for this one, it's going to end up not mattering, and I'll show you why. Key, if you want to add in sound effects or whatnot, if you're really manipulating the sound, that's where the key helps. I happen to know this song is in D major. Again, not going to matter for what we're doing, but the option is there. Same with, time signature. So this is what we want. We want this in time mode. And we're going to hit OK. And this opens up the new project for us. See, we don't need most of this stuff. In fact, we don't even need this. This is if you want to add a MIDI instrument, so I'm going to get rid of that right now. And yeah, we can just get rid of this audio track because we don't need that either. So the first thing we're going to do is open up the song that we need, the file. So we go to Add Sound File, and I happen to have it right here because I was working on this earlier. This is Stephen Curtis Chapman, All About Love is the album. I Will Be Here is the name of the song. It gives you a little bit of a preview right there. Now, interestingly, and I had to ask the bride Corinne about this, there are 3 different released versions of this song. There was an album in 1989 that Stephen Curtis Chapman made, and he released the song initially there. There was a 2003 re-release. A lot of Christian artists, there's only so many Christian songs out there, so sometimes they'll go back to their old catalog and re-record some stuff. And then there was a live version from 2017 that had a more acoustic instrumentation, and that was never officially released on any album, so I was really hoping that that wasn't the version they wanted. I sent her all 3 and be like, hey, which one am I working with? The 2003 version is the one that I'm working with. So we have the MIDI, not the MIDI, the waveform right here. You can see the entire length of the song is about 4 minutes and 12 seconds, but we need to shorten it down to 2 minutes for what they want. So first, if you wanted, you could go to Beats and you could try and line it up with the tempo. You would want to turn Snap to Grid off because otherwise it's going to see these little line markers right here. It's going to automatically go to that. And when you do that, you never want to start on beat number 1 because you're inevitably going to cut something off a little bit. You would always want to start on beat 2. I'm showing you more than I need to do. So if we were to start right there, and if you want to turn the metronome on, there's a metronome button right there for playback. Let's turn that on so you can hear the tempo. There it is. The problem, as you can probably tell, is that it's a live recording and it's not snapped to anything. So for this one, having the tempo locked in is not going to do anything. If you have a more modern song, a lot of songs are snapped to the tune. But if you're working with ballads that have modulations in them, they have tempo fluctuations that really stretch the tension and the emotion of the song, locking in the tempo is not going to do anything. You do not want to snap and you do not want to quantize ballads ever. So keep that in mind. So we're not going to worry about that. But if you did, remember, you want to keep that right here for beat number 2. But we don't need to worry about that, so we're just gonna put that over there. So we're gonna go back to time mode, and we wanna keep this to about 2 minutes or so. So we need to find, this seems to be a nice little break in the sound, so let's listen here and see if there's a nice... Okay, that's a good jumping off point for where we want to end up. So our transition is gonna end there. So I left clicked right there, and we're gonna right click and hit split. So now this is its own separate thing that we're going to manipulate. But now we have our end piece, we need to have a beginning piece. So this is about a minute or so, so let's get about a minute or so in here. You hear that? That. Okay, right there. So we want to get rid of that middle part, so. Yeah, so that middle part, boom, we're just gonna delete that, get rid of that. So we have our beginning and our end, so now we have to put them together. So, you can't just slap them next to each other because listen. So you hear that? You hear that gap right there? That sounds terrible. So we're gonna take the end and we're going to drag it down to its own track so we can overlap it a little bit. Now you can have them both on the same track, but then it automatically kind of creates an envelope, and I'm not a fan of pre-made envelopes because it definitely just sounds like you're on a crossfader and going zoom, and you don't want it to be necessarily that solid. So where do we want to start this? Okay, so we have that. So we're gonna drag this part out a little bit. That's probably good. So let me lower the volume here. Okay, so we're actually gonna pop that right there. You hear that vocal overlap? That's how we know that that's gonna be in the right spot. So now what we wanna do is we want to fade out the beginning and fade in the ending. So we're gonna create a point right here. You just kind of click. Don't mess with decibels, especially if you're working with the same song. They're already mastered to a level that's good. You really don't want to mess with volume. That's why you have volume sliders on your controller. So we're gonna start there and we're gonna fade this all the way down to negative infinite decibels. And we want to start right there because that point right there, that's where we want the ending to be full volume. So we're going to lower this right here, and let's just take a listen to how that transition sounds. See, you listen to that, like there was that weird little hit, like that part of the piano. I don't like that very much. So we're going to take the ending and add another point and make it so it's not quite as linear. You hear that? I still don't like that. So we gotta add the beginning. See how... Stop. I don't want to get copyrighted over this. So, let's try this here. So I'm not a fan of that. So, I'm probably gonna want to drag this up a little bit, maybe drag this out a little bit more, because that problem is that piano hiccup in there. And there's a lot of trial and error. So you can hear that little bit of the vocal from right here, so we don't actually need that, so we'll get rid of that. Well, see, the problem is this part of the song is gone, but this was all the way down here, you know, so we need the volume to be consistent. Ooh, maybe. Listen to this. That's it. You hear that? Like, follow along. Pretend I'm a conductor. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It flows. It flows. That's what we want to do. So that's pretty good right there. So now all we need to do is if we were doing different songs, we would change the volume. We don't need to do that. We don't need to worry about any of the effects. There's no reason to add on to that because it's the same song, you know, it's well constructed on its own. So now we just need to save it. So we're gonna go to File, Mix Down to, and you have options as to what file format you wanna use. I always go lossless, WAV, or FLAC, especially when this is a lossless file to begin with. I was able to go to the library, get the 2003 Stephen Curtis Chapman CD, and rip the song that way. It's a FLAC file that I'm working with, so I want to keep it FLAC when I do that. Now, when you have the MP3, if you're using an MP3, like Amazon downloads or 320 MP3s, never upconvert. You don't want to go from an MP3 source to a WAV or a FLAC. There's no reason to do that. You're going to inevitably have a huge bunch of problems. And if you want to keep it MP3, that's fine, but I highly suggest keeping it 320 kbps for MP3. Any lower than that, I mean, honestly, most people won't be able to tell, but you'll know, you know? So I'm gonna keep this at FLAC. Have you made changes? I mean, yeah, you should, but just for the sake of the video, I'm not going to. I'm gonna save to the desktop, and let's go with I Will Be Here, Torgo mix. If you want to see the details, CD quality, I mean, there's really no reason to go higher than that. 24 bits, it's not needed. 96,000 hertz, you don't need that. CD quality, I mean, the 44.1, you've seen that in audio files, that's really all you need. And you don't want to go lower than that because then that's going to sound really bad. So we're going to keep 44,100 hertz or 44.1 kilohertz, 16 bits, stereo, that should be fine. It's going to be about 24 megabytes, which is about right for like that size file for music. You don't need to tag anything if you really don't want to, because obviously this is probably gonna be like a one-off thing. We're gonna hit save, it'll automatically convert right there. It pops up with this automatic player, and let's listen to the final in Groove Music, which I never use. I mean, yeah, they said 2 minutes, but 2:23, I mean, there's only so much you can do. You don't want to be a hard 2 minutes if the break isn't natural. We have a natural transition, and that's how you condense a song in Mixcraft. Hope this helps.